We've traditionally used malted barley. Then the other raw material which I'm passing round are the hops. And hops actually weren't added to beer up to the Middle Ages. And we used to add all sorts of things like cherries and raspberries and honey and fruit and spices, anything to give a bit of sweetness, because the problem was in the Middle Ages that we didn't make beer very cleanly, and the beer used to turn into vinegar very, very quickly. So it used to taste pretty sour. So brewers of the Middle Ages added all sorts of things just to give it a bit of sweetness. They eventually found the hops, and hops actually act as a natural preservative. So they found that not only did it add a little bit of flavour and aroma to the beer, but it also actually helped preserve the beer as well. It's now become an integral part of the flavour and aroma as well. The first stage of the process is we blend these different malted barleys, about 3/4 of a tonne of this, to produce 7,500 pints. We can brew about 7,500 pints per batch. We blend the blend of these malted barleys with hot water at about 60 degrees, and this allows the natural enzymes in the malt to break the starch down into sugars, which the yeast then can ferment. The next stage of the process is we draw off the extract. Brewers call it the sweet wort. This is the sugar-rich liquid extract from the malted barley, and we pump it to the tank at the end here, and that's where we add the hops. We add one lot of hops at the beginning of the boil, and that extracts the bitterness, and then we add hops throughout the boil and extract the volatile components of the hops which give it the aroma. We also add hops in the hop back right at the end of the boil, and it's a bit like just steeping or sort of stewing tea. It just allows the natural hop character to come out of the hops in a controlled way. We then chill the wort down, and it goes down to the other barn where the bar is, and this is where we add the fourth magic ingredient, which is the yeast. Now, yeast, we went 20 years ago to another brewery and got some of their live yeast, and we've kept that yeast going ever since. So we went and got 20 litres. We pitched that onto the first batch of beer that we produced. Yeast, rather like me, is rather intolerant to alcohol, and it's amazing that it ferments it at the start of the process. It's nice and warm, it's got a bit of oxygen, it's got some sugar, and it starts fermenting and converting it into alcohol. But unfortunately, as it gets towards the end, it's slightly drunk, it's run out of food because it's eaten all the sugar, and then we chill it down. Well, the yeast doesn't die, but it just sort of passes out and drops to the bottom of the tank, and we collect that yeast, and then we can repitch it in the next batch of beer. So we've kept our yeast that we went 20 years ago, we've kept it going ever since. If you ever see the Marmite lorry tanker going down a motorway, it's going to or from a brewery collecting their spent yeast to convert into Marmite. All the spent byproducts of the brewing process we actually, all the spent brewing products we actually reuse somewhere. The spent brewer's grains, once we've extracted all the sugar and the colour and the flavour from the malt, what's left is a very protein-rich husk, and we take that down to Town Farm. If you've ever bought meat from Town Farm in Bisham,